Okay. Oh, sorry. 2 seconds. Go. I'm Marley, and my dog's been a huge distraction, but you're tuned into climate action figures.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the newest and freshest episode of Climate Action Figures. I'm your humble host, John Whidden, and this week on the show, you get to meet Marley. But first, this week's quick fix, which comes to us from Heather. Heather says, use beeswax cloths to cover leftovers instead of using saran wrap. And also, recycle your aluminum foil. So with that, I will say a warm welcome to Marley. Thanks for being here today, Marley.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And thanks to Heather for that quick fix. What do you think about that, Marley? Any thoughts about
Definitely.
beeswax and tinfoil?
Yeah, I think that using any type of reusable beeswax or other organic cover is a great way to keep your food fresh without making detrimental effects to the environment. And yeah, the aluminum foil is a great one because a lot of people miss that. But once it's clean, it's just like any other metal that you would also recycle. So throw that in the recycling bin and off you go.
Absolutely. Well, Marley is a grade 10 student, and as you probably have already guessed, she's involved in her school's Eco Club. And Marley, do you want to tell us a little bit about your school's Eco Club?
Yeah, so it's quite a small group, but we've got some big plans ahead of us. And really our main goal is to just with small things and advocacy and education for our classmates and our teachers, just try and make our school a little bit of a greener place. Um, and so we've got all sorts of things on the table, different types of recycling drives, different information and education campaigns. Yeah, things like that so that we can help improve our school and the wider community.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And I hear, Marley, that you have been shortlisted to go to a global education program. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I will be going to um one of the UWC, so United World College campuses for the next 2 years of my high school. And so, but one of UWC's like very core values is the environment and sustainability and how you can work that into education. So most of the campuses are like very focused on how what their electricity, what their recycling and compost impacts are on their surrounding community. And also, the school really tries to get students to think about how they can be a change maker in the world. And so environmental concerns come up a lot in that. And having the tools to be able to make change is really important for them.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. Now, word was that you were nominated for that. It sounds like you're going. Is it a sure thing now?
It is a 99.999% sure thing that I'm going.
Wow.
So,
And do you know where you'll be
yeah,
going?
not yet. That's the 0.001% is which campus because UWCs are all over the world. So, that's part of the another part of their sustainability is what impacts they're having on their specific community because environmental conscientiousness doesn't look the same in Vancouver Island as it does in Norway, say.
Right,
So
of course.
that kind of global environmental thinking is another thing that I am excited to get to be a part of.
I'll bet you are. Do you know what some of the options are for the possible places you might be going?
Yeah, so my top choice is to go to the Robert Bosch College in Freiburg, Germany. And really because of Robert Bosch's, it's one of the like it's one of the leading schools in their environmental kind of thoughtfulness, partly because Freiburg is Germany's so-called green city, but also because of the connection to nature and the gardening that the school participates in. So, yeah, that's where I'd like to end up.
Okay. And if
Yeah.
you don't end up there, do you know where else you might be going?
Um, there's a wide range of places. There's the Atlantic College in Wales, and there's UWC Adriatic in outside of Trieste, Italy, and yeah, I could end up very well anywhere, but
Well, it sounds
those are
like none of
some.
those would be a bad option, right?
No, definitely not.
Great. You know, talking about school, I wonder, Marley, if someone who's very environmentally minded like you finds it difficult to be that in this school. You know, we all think, oh, we should have the whole student body interested in environmental action, and yet you say the eco club is quite small. Tell us about that. Is that frustrating? Is it difficult to be an environmentally minded person in high school these days?
It is, I think, just because of the area that I'm in, a lot of families are coming from the energy sector. And so that also kind of changes the mindset of my peers. And so, like, getting people excited, get like the problem I find often with educating people is they can know which bin to put their tinfoil in, but they might not care enough to rinse it off so that it's safe to go in that recycling bin. And so,
Hmm.
um, I think that's also a big issue with kind of the s- society and kind of thinking of my generation is there's not quite the same passion, I feel like, that some generations have had. And while some things are amplified in mine, some things are less amplified. So it's a give and take. But we're working on it. So I'm sure that one day things will work out for the better. So just hoping for
Wow.
that.
It's great that you have that hope. This whole podcast came about as a result of an in school program around climate anxiety. Do you sense that in your peers at school?
Not to be disheartening, but not really.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure I'm seeing a very small demographic in my peers. And so I think that probably impacts my viewpoint. I think if I were maybe in a different community, I would see more action and more passion. But I feel like people have maybe become desensitized to it because of all the exposure that we're getting to this. And like people on TikTok, there's plenty of climate people on TikTok, but because those images are getting thrown in your face all day, every day, I feel like people are like, oh, well, what can I do about like I don't care enough. I can't make enough action. So what is like I'm just gonna keep going on with my life. Yeah, and so that's troubling. Um,
I mean,
but
we don't want young people to feel climate anxiety.
no, but I think a sense of urgency, or if not urgency, then at least like just conscientiousness about it is important. Like don't don't be anxious, don't hurt yourself over it, but awareness is important.
Right. And just want to say to our listeners that you're not losing your mind. It's not a piano in your head. It's actually, I think, one of Marley's siblings practicing, right?
Yes, sorry about that.
That's okay. We kind of enjoy the background music. It's soothing. Now, that kind of leads us then into you talked about action, taking action. What is the climate action that you've decided to share with us today?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm helping with at school right now is we're doing a textile drive to help kind of limit textile and fabric waste because almost 900,000 tons of textiles per
Wow.
year are just thrown away. and they end up in landfills, and then they end up leaching into our environment, and that is not a good thing. So, our textile drive is hopefully going to be able to make our small dent in that waste and put those fabrics to be recycled or reused in a better way so that we are limiting our Im- impact. Yeah.
So it's mostly about what people do with their used textiles then.
Yeah. I mean, for this one, it's we're focusing on the like let us help you help the environment by like supporting our drive. Um, and then that's will hopefully just start to bring more awareness so that as we do other campaigns in our school, people are paying a little more attention.
Right. As you've looked into this textile issue, because it is a huge impact on the environment, are there any other ideas or suggestions you have for our listeners?
Um, I mean, one of the other big things is like the fast fashion industry and kind of like stop it at its source. So, if we're like lowering our consumerism in terms of fast throwaway clothing and maybe going to like secondhand or trying to um like reuse. I know as a little kid, like if I got holes in my leggings, we just cut off the bottoms and then they were shorts. And so
Right.
extending the lifespan of clothing like that can also help limit the negative impact that's happening.
Right. Someone just said to me the other day, we can't just do what we've always done and we can't do what's comfortable. We have to sometimes make some difficult choices. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes those choices, like going to the thrift store, can turn into great things that you actually enjoy. You're not doing it under duress. You're actually enjoying
Yeah.
shopping at the thrift store, right? So I'd like to wrap up the conversation then, Marli, just asking you with the concerns that you see in the world today around the environment. What gives you hope?
I I think that um the slow progression towards more regulation, more thought between consumers and distributors and governments is it's slow right now, but hopefully it will um, keep accelerating and keep um, gaining speed. Like I've seen in my city, like there's very few places where you can actually get a plastic straw anymore, and that's because of both government regulation and industry standards changing. And so things like that, those little changes that are going to build and become something bigger, that's something that I'm really happy and hopeful to be seeing.
And you feel like you have a big part in that, some control over that, Marli?
I think that, yeah, our voices as citizens, as consumers matter, and that we do have the power to make decisions and make changes. And I think that, like, an individual, one person might not be able to do anything, but a group of people who's all working together really could.
Consumer voice power. You heard it from Marli here. Thank you so much for joining us, Marli.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Wonderful to have you here. And thank you, dear listener. We will be back again next week, same time, same place, to hear from another young person who is doing cool things like Marli to combat climate change. Until then, go figures.
This has been Climate Action Figures. Our show is produced and hosted by John Whidden. Our creative consultant is Kayla McIntosh. Our theme song is Hawaii Vacation by Tovari. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Climate Action Figures. That's all one word. And if you have any other questions or comments that arose from this or any episode, feel free to reach out to us at climateactionfigures@gmail.com. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another Climate Action Figure.